land. Weimar and Brock have recently travelled back in the company of a couple of Fort Eastburn guards and Mercy Dixon, who is she's a member of Fort Eastburn, and she's the castellan of a sort of a watchtower that's been built near Dearson fairly recently. So we start off with you guys in the village, and obviously we've just sort of off camera, Yanis has kind of given you guys a bit of a sort of update on what is going on, so we won't go all the way through their proposal again, but essentially Mercy Dixon is proposing on behalf of the Lord of Fort Eastburn that they're expecting come the summer that a lot of people from Rohaleen, the home continent, who weren't willing to risk danger to come and settle in Valconan originally, they're probably going to, now they know it's a little bit safer, they're probably going to want to come over and take advantage of all the hard work and the risk that people like yourself have been through. Obviously they're not too keen on this idea because they figure, well, we're the ones who risked all the dangers, why should they now swan in and reap all the rewards? But they're expecting this to happen, so basically they're trying to build a series of watchtowers and forts along the southern coast, so that if Rohaleen people do come over and they start trying to push their weight around and start trying to take over, they're in a position to resist that and go no, we're fine, we've got this, we're the ones that risked all the danger, so leave it. They've basically, as Weimar will have told you, they've proposed this idea to the people in Dearson, who seemed pretty willing to sort of accept the idea. When Weimar and Brock warned them that there's pirates in the area, we've just killed a load of them, there's possibly retribution on the way, in order to help them, Mercy Dixon left the vast majority of her soldiers in Dearson to help them defend in case any of these pirates did turn up, and she's only taken 2 bodyguards with her to visit New Zealand, and she's effectively proposing the same deal to New Zealand. She's saying, whilst all the watchtowers etc will be loosely affiliated with Fort Eastburn, the current lord of the fort is very keen to have people from the area actually in charge of the various fortresses, because they know the local people better, they know the issues that bother the local area, stuff like that. They're in a better place to sort of more fairly deal with stuff like that. They'd suggested that they wanted to build one of these forts in the ruins of Castlane because there's plenty of stones, plenty of building material there's no one actually living there. They'd obviously heard of you all before they sort of came here, which isn't surprising given your various adventures thus far. Apparently the Lord Eastburn had proposed that Weimar was a potential candidate for being the castellan of this fort if and when it's built, but they said without the agreement of the local villagers and the local people they weren't going to build it. That's why they'd come here to ask before they even started building that. So obviously it's been a lot more sort of flowery in character, there's been a lot more sort of talking backwards and forwards, but that's the sort of rough idea. Obviously on a sort of domain level, Eastburn is trying to expand its reach as a domain, with the ostensible goal of having a firm hold on the southern coast in case any people from Rohaleen try exerting influence over Valconan come the summer. So this has all been laid out, you're all there as part of the chat and everything that's going on. Josiah Means, the elder of New Zealand, is there as well. Mercy Dixon is there with her 2 bodyguards, one on either side of her. Is there anything you guys would have wanted to bring up during that conversation? And at the minute it is just a conversation, they've not come in and they're not hey, we're building a fortress, get on board with the programme. They're this is why we want to build the fortresses. If we're going to build one in this area, we want one of your guys to be in charge of it, but also we want to check you're okay with it before we start it. So would any of you guys have had anything you wanted to say during that conversation? Or any questions you ask?
So I guess, so I have a kind of out of context question. The Fort Eastbourne is the Grima Wormtongue dude, right?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. 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 So I
Also,
guess.
for additional context, we had the pirate slaver captive, and there was a sort of test that Weimar was trying to do as far as like what kind of people these are, the castellan and the bodyguards, um, by figuring out what to do with the pirate, and it was sort of at least Weimar's conclusions, and I think probably Brock's as well, uh, that the castellan at least was on the level, and sort of the kind of people that we would like to associate with. That's not to comment at all on what happens in Fort Eastern, but we sort of like checked out the castellan of this tower.
Yeah, they basically had a bit of sort of when they were like, oh, this guy's a slaver. What should we do with him? He's told us this information, but we can't really just let him go. And Mercy Dixon was like, well, you've already told us he's enslaved people. He's no doubt killed people. I think it's pretty obvious what we should do with him. Like, we know what he'd be sentenced to if, like, he was brought to trial in this. And they basically said, yeah, we're fine with that. And they turned him over to the Ice Walker woman, because he was obviously like tied up and whatever. They turned his fate over to the Ice Walker woman, who was one of the slaves they rescued, and she killed him. Then they, at the rest of the group's instigation, they sort of like hung his body up from a tree as like a warning, something.
Okay. And John, does this story sound plausible, or does it sound more likely that since this guy is not a noble and he's claimed the fort, that it's more of he's trying to protect himself, or do we think we think it's feasible that he'd be trying to protect the land and everyone in it?
It's difficult to tell exactly, because obviously you've not really had a great deal of like dealings personally with Seth Brannan, like the sort of previous seneschal of East, but you've heard the rumours, like, oh, did he kill the previous lord to take over his position? But you don't really have like a great deal of hard information, and you've glimpsed him a couple of times, but you've not really had any like solid interaction with him. It's perfectly possible he could be doing this just to like boost up his own power base. He also could be genuinely concerned that he doesn't want people like coming in and taking over after everyone else has done the hard work. Or to be honest, it could be both of them, because he might well be interested in like preserving like the sovereignty, for want of a better word, of Valconan, but he might also be, by doing that, obviously also I make sure no one's challenging my own power base. It could be either or.
Okay. Now, was there any details on how the vassal ship, I guess, would work? Do we have to pay them?
As far as you understand it from what you've been told, they would pretty much pay for the fortress, and there would be a garrison of men put in the fortress, and then whoever was in charge of the fortress, like I say, they've sort of mentioned Weimar as one of the candidates, they would be sort of left to their own devices. They spoke briefly to Weimar previously, the idea being that every so often, like the castellans of all the fortresses would like meet together with like Lord Eastbourne and any of the other lords from the fortresses he can get on board, and then like any grievances would be aired, and they would decide on a course of action with which to go forward. Because the very much the idea they're sort of pushing forward is that obviously people in Fort Eastbourne, they don't really know what the deal is with like New Zealand and what the pressing issues are there. They would rather have someone who like is a local face, known to the local people, and can basically, if there is a problem locally, can then like meet up with all the other lords and be like, look, this is going on, this is the problem, I know these people, like, how are we going to deal with it? So they're not relying on sort of second-hand reports and rumours and hearsay, which all sounds very reasonable. How truthful it is, obviously you don't know.
Okay. And I guess then if we take a little sidebar,
Yeah, of course.
among the three of us.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is like happening over a period of time, so you'll have a chance to like step aside and discuss between the three of you.
What do you think of this story, Weimar? Seems a bit too good to be true.
Well, I think it's is plausible, and they're also acting on it. They did mention that they had sent sort of runners, I suppose, with similar kinds of, suggestions to the other forts as well. And I think there's actually something going on there, more or less what they are saying here. And I think that's probably also partially due to the fact that whoever's there, they won't have the kind of title that people from the old country are going to respect when they come over. Like, he's going to be just another steward.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they'll toss his ass out and put a cousin with an actual title on his seat. So he may be a thoroughly reprehensible person, as we have suspected in the past, at the same time, I think he's probably looking for self-preservation, much as anyone else. Which, it doesn't make it clean, but I think he's probably scared of the same kind of stuff we would be, because none of us have actual claim if the lords come over, because they'll just decide what is actual claim, and it's not going to be us. So
yeah, and I do think it does formalize our claim to a certain degree if he claims it as a duchy, then we can claim a barony, and
that's true. At the very least, like, if we're looking at this in terms of there's going to be a lot of rich people coming over soon. we are not that, and if we have a village with a palisade, couple dozen mercenaries, it's going to last very long against the warship. Bombardment for a day or two, then they'll just waltz right in and take whoever's left. So I think in the long term, having friends is what we've been trying to do anyway. Now, is this gonna be a bad thing once we actually meet this new lord and see if he is the kind of person that we thought he might be when we wandered into the mountains? I have no idea.
But in the meantime, there's no harm to have him build a fortress nearby.
Yeah, I mean, alliances have been known to end, and of course,
a new barony is formed.
That's very true. Now, I'm not looking to say let's go into this with the intent of bailing out if he is, if he likes to. Well, if he has questionable tastes, I think we're probably going to be okay. There's not going to be a better option coming over from the old country where that is concerned. Now, if he's actually doing something in the mountains that we would want to put a stop to, whether that ties back to whatever we have discovered so far of the ancient heritage of this land and the things that have happened here. Like, if he's tied up in any of that, and I think there's every chance he could be. Who knows what's in the mountains? We didn't explore enough.
Yeah, if we didn't find anything except that.
Yeah. If he's tied up in any of that, of course we need to address that. And alliances be damned. We'll forge a new alliance after he's dead. But if we have a chance of making this with like a slightly reprehensible person who, has the usual characteristics of a noble, I think it's worth a shot, at least, to try.
Yes, I think you are right, and I think, yeah, if the men and the castellan are to be trusted, then there is a good chance that the men who are sent here to protect us will protect us and not become part of the problem. And should the worst come to the worst, then should this lord pass away peacefully in his sleep, then surely one of the castellans would be in line to replace them.
Wouldn't that be ideal? And look at us here planning a coup already. I slapped Malcolm on the shoulder.
Whilst
I see
there's...
a problem.
Sorry, say again, Quentin.
I see a problem. You're effectively inviting the wolf in.
Yeah.
What if those mercenaries are used to then slaughter your village?
It's a gamble either way, I think, at this point. Because it's a bigger unknown what's going to come over from Fort Eastburn, I think. Because or at least I think that, I like to think that I know what's coming from the home lands. And it's not going to be good for us either way, what comes over from there. It's going to take longer, maybe, for them to actually get their act together, but I think they're starting to do that by now. There's no guarantees in this. I'm 100% on board with that, Quentin. The idea that if we have a tower with soldiers next to our village, regardless of if one of us is formally in command of them, there's no guarantees there. This man might have arranged a coup in Fort Eastburn, and now he's the Lord instead of the old Lord. There's no good choices here, unless we want to pick up and make New Zealand somewhere on the ice shelf. Because we could probably do that, and no one would care about us anymore. But as long as we're on the coast, we're probably looking to have to take one of these deals.
And how attached are you to New Zealand?
Very.
We put a lot of effort in, to be sure.
And what are the future prospects of New Zealand as it stands?
It's the only... it's one of the few locations that have access to like ports for incoming ships. So there is another cove, but we think the prospects are quite good. I guess while I don't dispute that the Lord is a snake and you want to be careful he doesn't bite us, he doesn't really need to build a fort if he wants to invade.
Well, my point is this. I mean, you're one of the few ports, yeah? Now, let's say that the old lands send over a ship. They're going to go for the ports, aren't they? Of what use is a tower over there away from the port when we need archers firing at that ship? It's going to take them at least half an hour to get ready, and then the time it takes to get to the village, by which point you've been bombarded and boarded. I think if they want to build a tower next to our village, they need to do it on our terms.
So what are we thinking? They put the tower in
the port
in New Zealand, then?
Yeah.
Just on the opposite side of the bridge. So with a catapult, so we can bombard ships coming up the river.
So at least then they can see downstream and know what's coming.
That wouldn't be a bad idea at all if they're amenable to that. We could put it literally at the mouth of the bridge on the other side.
Yeah.
That's a very good idea.
Put an advanced warning.
It's a very good idea. If they're willing to do that, I think it would be. And regardless of anyone coming in from the old country, it'd be a fine deterrent for, bandits from the whale song forest.
Is this an idea you propose to Mercy Dixon, or?
Yeah, we'll definitely take it to her.
Okay, yes. So how do you sell that idea to her?
So before we go and negotiate with the castellan, are we saying we're gonna take the tower, but we want to point the location for it? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. Okay. Sure. So I'll go and find the castellan, and says we've conferred, and we've determined that we would like to join in this great effort. However, there's some concern about the location of the tower and its efficacy, as we are in fact on the very coast.
This young, fairly charismatic woman who's wearing the purple and black heraldry of Fort Eastburn, she sort of looks at you, a little look of slight concern on her face, and then she says, "Concerns about the location?"
Yeah, what we're thinking is, if, and this is entirely the case, we are a port, quite accessible to water. We would rather have the tower at the river rather than at the ruins of Castlemaine, because while the ruins of Castlemaine are close by, they are not at New Zealand. So,
I see. So your concern is that the tower in the current proposed location wouldn't have the necessary immediacy for dealing with any threats.
that's entirely our concern. That while it would be helpful, it would not be supremely helpful. It would be more of a, well, let's just say that if something were to happen in New Zealand, we would rather have the assistance of the tower immediately rather than an hour afterwards.
I understand. Now, obviously, I'll have to run this past my lord. I'm just a messenger after all. But speaking informally, I don't perceive any great problem with that. I know that my lord's original idea of locating the towers slightly out of the civilian population centres was just to keep the disruption to such villages and towns to an absolute minimum.
Well, you'll find out in short order that we like to do business. So, in that sense as well, having the, shall we say, the garrison be close by to where our services, merchants, tradespeople are, would be quite conducive to that sort of activity as well, we like to think.
Indeed,
So,
I know that in the long term, my lord's idea is that replacements for the garrison, etc., would be recruited locally, because obviously local people have more of a stake in the events that are going on in the area. But until you've had sufficient time to train and retain those people, of course, a sort of a stand-in garrison would be provided to man the tower until you had enough time to recruit your own people.
very good.
While this conversation's going on, Quentin, you spot sort of like up to the north where there's the gate into the village. You see what appears to be a ragged looking man wearing a cloak. He has like blood all over him. His cloak's ragged and torn. He's got signs of like injuries. He comes, obviously too far away to like hear what he's saying, but he's waving an arm about. He comes staggering through the gate to the village and almost like falls into the arms of Clarence, one of the mercenaries that have been hired to protect the village of New Zealand. Clarence is sort of like knelt down by him, sort of like holding him as this bloody man that you see he's like trying to say something to Clarence.
I'll sprint over.
Yeah, no problem. So I will move you over. So you sprint over. You're fairly spry, Quentin. So you get there just in time to recognise a man called Enos. Now, you would know from your background that at a point in the past, the players effectively recruited a group of like bandits and outlaws who were like more outlaws by circumstance than real want or like evilness, led by a woman called Remember McCord, and they offered them a place to stay in the village. Now, they agreed. They said they didn't want to actually live in the village. They were going to live in the woods nearby, but they agreed to help like defend the village and return with hospitality. And when the winter got cold, they could shelter in the village. It was all a nice arrangement. And this guy is basically like the second in command of that group. You can see from looking back that he's got marks which you'll recognise as maybe like animal sort of like attack marks. You can see like spots of blood as he's obviously ran out of the woods. And as you get closer, and like say Clarence is like cradling him on the ground, he's like, I got here as fast as I could. There's wolves, huge wolves. They're heading this way. Killed loads of the men. McCord stayed behind to try and delay them and hold them off. I was the fastest runner. They sent me ahead to warn you, but some of them got the drop on me. I eventually made it away, but I didn't think I'd make it. And he's he's clutching the jerkin of the guard, trying to like hold on to him. You see his eye, one of his eyes is like blood covering it, partially dried, and he's sort of like he's trying to look at him through his one good eye. And he's like, they're quick, devilishly quick. They'll soon be here. You need to warn everybody. Get ready. At which point, like without saying a further word, Clarence sort of like puts him down on the ground, reaches inside his jerkin, he pulls out like a big tin whistle effectively, and he blows a single shrill note on it that anyone in the village will hear. You see out of the main guardhouse the grizzled figure of Cotton Nickel, who's like the sort of commander of like the New Zealand Guard, looks out and he's like, "What is it, Clarence?" He's like Nickel, and he like gestures down at Enos. He's like, "Large wolves on the way." He's like, Nickel goes, "Get that cart in front of the gateway, then block it off." And he sort of like, he looks around, and you can see like he looks at the other people who are sort of stood on guard at the palisade, and he's like, "We've got incoming, like we're prepared for it. Get yourselves ready." And obviously you can all hear him shouting. He disappears back into the main guardhouse, and a few seconds later you basically see like a trapdoor open on the roof of the guardhouse, and you see him come out, and he like sits on the roof. You can see he's holding like a large crossbow, and he basically starts like checking the stringing of it. He's like got some bolts that he's like stuck into the thatch, and he's like thumbing one into the crossbow, like getting it ready. Clarence, who stood near the gate, he shouts, Rufus! And you see like the recently arrived sort of messenger courier guy sticks his head out for the building. He's like, "Rufus, any of your lot in the village still?" He's like, "No, I sent them all out to the various other forts and settlements, to try and put the word out about our messenger service." He's like, "Well, get over here then, man, and give me a hand with this cart, or at least get Enos out of the way." At which point Rufus like moves the injured man out of the way. Clarence looks at you, Quentin, and he's like, "Give us a hand with this cart, will you?"
I'll start shouldering the cart then.
Yep, no problem. So the two of you basically grab this heavy wooden cart and pull it in the way, so it's like a makeshift sort of barricade or gate. And as all this is going on, in the distance you hear the sound of howling. However, you've not actually seen any wolves as such yet. You've got a little bit of time. What do you guys want to do?
Is there towers at the gate?
There aren't towers at the gate, no. It's a simple like wooden palisade with like a little sort of a little sort of wall behind it, so people can like stand on it and like fire bows over it. but it is a simple wooden palisade.
Okay. Awesome. So I think I will.
And like I say, you've got a bit of time, so feel free to move yourself wherever you want.
So I think I'll come up. How high is the? Can we shoot over the palisade?
It'd be quite difficult to shoot over it just so, like, from the ground. However, like I say, there's like effectively little ladders, and then there's like a little wall like halfway up it that you can stand on and like fire down.
So I'll jump up onto that in this corner and get ready to shoot my bow.
Yeah, absolutely fine.
I'm going to get on top of that building.
Yep.
And aim a bow towards the lowest point, which is obviously the top of the cart.
Of course, yep. No problems. What about yourself, Weimar?
So, do we have any indication from which particular side or direction the howls are coming from? Or is it just, general?
They appear to be sort of coming from like this sort of direction, so like the direction of the woods over from the east side.
Right. Okay. What time of day is it?
You arrived there fairly early, so it's probably sort of like mid-morning. There's a fairly light sort of snow falling. Obviously, the temperatures are pretty much always cold now because we're heading into the Valconan winter, but we're not like deep into the winter yet, so it's not terrible. But the light's fairly good at the moment. Like I say, it's mid-morning.
I think somebody needs to grab hold of Mercy. She's still standing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she will be moving. Don't worry, I'm telling you guys.
Yeah.
Decide what you want to do.
I think. Wait, Josiah is the alderman, right?
He is indeed.
Yeah.
And don't worry about him. He'll be like making for like one of the buildings and like staying in there because he's an old man.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like as soon as they're like wolves, he'll be like, "Yeah, I'll be getting indoors."
I think I left the kettle on.
Yeah, I smell gas. Yeah, he like runs into his home and he's like, you hear the sound of like the door being shut and like stuff being pushed up against it.
Yeah.
Which, fair, he's like quite an old man. He's not exactly going to make a lot of difference in a combat.
Yeah. Is there room here? Because I'm gonna grab Bullseye. Well, if we're going in turns, then Bullseye is not there yet. But
well, that's fine. We're not strictly in rounds at the minute. So that's fine.
Yeah. So
There's probably enough for one more person on top of the guardhouse.
Yeah. So I'll. Yeah. No. I'll go up, and I'll motion for Bullseye to basically be on the lookout for where he could go. See, he's going to be making his move when it becomes apparent, like where we need more bodies. So
okay, so as you're doing this, you hear Mercy Dixon saying, "You men, get over there and help them reinforce that gate." And you see like her two guys sort of like running over, taking up position with like their spears like behind the cart. And then she actually looks in your direction, Weimar, and she says, "Where do you want me?"
I'll shout and point. It's like, help Anne, for now.
Yep, no problem. She moves over there and she heads up one of the little ladders onto the little palisade wall. You see as she sort of gets up there, you see her sort of like reaching behind her cloak and she pulls out what you obviously recognise as a black powder pistol. You see her sort of like pulling around like a little like bandolier with like obviously a couple of like ammunition pouches on, and she's starting to like put the powder in and like getting this pistol ready. And then a few moments later, as the wolves continue to howl, these gigantic wolves begin to run out of the forest, closing in on New Zealand. Far larger than wolves you have seen previously, with a dull red glimmer to their eyes, spittle dripping from their snarling, fanged mouths. Okay, can all of you please roll me a d6? Okay, grand. So actually you all spot this.
Wonderful.
So, as the wolves are running towards the stockade, for want of a better term, you notice that the wolves already have, some of them already have like signs of injury on them, and they don't look like weapon fire, you know, they look like crossbow wounds or like sword wounds or anything like that. They look more like sort of ragged claw marks on several of the wolves.
Okay, how long and how much space is there between each claw?
There's about, I mean, obviously it's difficult to tell exactly because they're
but like sort of roughly.
There's roughly like a hand's worth of space between each of these marks, and each one of them's about sort of like an inch wide, and it's
we
like
don't
three
like this.
sort of jagged marks.
we don't like whatever did this, is what Weimar thinks as he's getting his black powder gun out.
Okay, so the wolves continue to gallop in. So obviously we're going to come to initiative now, as is the normal way of things. So I'm going to ask, can one of you guys, it's up to you who wants to do it, roll a d6 for your sort of like player party initiative? I don't mind who wants to do it. Nice. Okay, let me make a roll for the... And basically we'll have you go first, then the friendly NPCs sort of on your initiative. So I'll make a roll for the unfriendly NPCs. Right, okay, so you guys will be going first. So as these wolves come running up, first of all, we're going to go to Malcolm. Malcolm, what are you doing?
I just want to shoot the nearest one.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Make your roll.
Uh, 11.
Okay, that is not enough, I'm afraid. So your arrow, I assume, skims the hair of one of these wolves. It lets out a bestial snarl. As you can see, it's sort of dropping down into a crouch as though it's getting ready to like spring up to the stockade wall. Okay, Quentin, what do you want to do? If you're speaking, you need to unmute yourself, mate.
I'm going to hold my action for a second and just get the general gist of what's happening.
Okay, no problems. So we'll move on to Weimar.
Shoot this one with a pistol.
Okay, go for it.
And it's in point blank range, which gives me
Yep.
a bonus. Which I never remember, but this time I did.
See, all it took for you to remember your bonuses was like a pack of dire wolves attacking you. Oh, that'll do.
I guess that's a hit.
I was going to say, never mind that to bonus. When you like hit that like natural 20, yes, that is most definitely a hit. So I assume you were shooting at the one nearest to you.
Yeah, this guy.
Okay, yeah, no problems. So you take a shot at the dire wolf. There is a loud as the gun discharges. You see your shot strike the wolf. A spray of blood goes up from its coat, like a bit of fur sprays up into the air. And I'm going to make a quick morale check for them, because you just discharged a black powder firearm.
Because their culture doesn't have black fire yet. Ooh.
Okay. So, you discharge this black powder firearm, and the two wolves here, and in fact, although they're not sort of like in a screaming, like panicked rout, the wolves do start falling back a bit from the wall, apparently a little bit less sure of their previous action, given the sort of foul, acrid smelling smoke that's drifting across the battlefield now. You can tell they're almost sort of circling rather than like fleeing, but previously they were just sort of full bore, like going for it, like, yeah, we're going to leap over these walls, we're going to tear into people there. Then there's this thick belching cloud of smoke and this horrible acrid smell, and it causes them to fall back a bit, almost like with a sort of unusual amount of intelligence, you know, Weimar for wolves, almost as though they're sort of like rethinking their course of action.
Yeah, I guess the fact that they're not running away is the thing that makes him go like, wait, are they reassessing that? Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously, Quentin, you've seen this. Do you want to jump in now with your action, or...?
I will aim at the dire wolf here.
Okay, no problems. Right, so I'm going to make a quick roll for the NPCs that we're shooting at them. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, so there's a flurry of arrow shots from the defenders of New Zealand, and there's another loud crack of a pistol as Mercy Dixon discharges her firearm at the wolf that's sort of slinking away from the wall where she's situated. You don't see any sort of major hits scored on the wolves, like a few arrows sort of skim them, they get a few minor nicks and grazes, but nothing sort of remarkable. However, because they've been driven back, they're effectively going to spend their turn sort of circling around almost, so they're perhaps like looking for a sign of weakness or somewhere they can get in, but they're not just like charging forward. So we'll move back round to you guys again. Obviously Bullseye still hasn't gone yet, so if you want to do Bullseye Weimar, you can do.
Yeah, so... Yeah, okay, and Bullseye is going to... Can he get on the palisade from where he is?
Yeah, there's loads of like little wooden ladders that they can just climb up onto a palisade wall.
Right, so he's going to be on top there and move to like halfway point here and shoot at this one. Short bow.
Okay.
Come on. Yes. No.
It's still enough to hit. However, as the wolves are sort of like slinking away, it's a very sort of like shallow hit. I mean, you know that he's hit it, but he's not done a massive amount of damage to it. You see it's like a shallow sort of crimson and greys scored in the grey-black flank of this creature as they're sort of like circling round and yipping and howling to each other. And we move on to the next round, so it's back up to Malcolm again.
I think I will just shoot at him again. Might be better. 16 for...
That's enough to hit. Again, you fire an arrow at this creature and it slices into the side of it. Okay, Quentin.
Right, I don't actually have a bow on my character sheet, but I'm going to shoot the bow at the wolf.
Well, as you're sort of like, oh, you're looking around, you're like, oh, I haven't actually got a bow. Clarence, who's like basically helping reinforce with a sort of he's got like a spear. He's like helping the soldiers from Eastburn to like have their spears out so they can't just leap over this cart. As you're sort of looking around, you see him. He sort of like one hand still on the spear, rested against the cart. He just sort of like flicks his cloak round with his other hand and like jerks at his back, and you can see he's got like a short bow and like a quiver on his back, and he's just like,
grab it. Yeah.
No problem. You grab that, and I will stick a short bow on your character sheet. There you go. You should now have that on your character sheet.
Yep. So yeah, shoot this one.
Yep, go for it.
AC 11, so I think that's a fail.
It is, yeah. You need 13 or more to hit these guys. So obviously, you've spent most of your turn sort of like grabbing the bow off Clarence. You do snap off a quick shot, but you've not really had time to like aim carefully or anything like that with it. So you just sort of like, and it doesn't manage to hit the creature. But you've got your bow. You're sorted now. Okay, Wymal. What do you do?
So, I think we're gonna have to holster the pistol for now and take a longbow, shoot this one.
Okay.
Go. I believe that's a hit.
It is indeed. So you fire an arrow from your longbow into the creature, and you watch with satisfaction as it sinks into the back leg of the creature as it's sort of slinking around. It lets out a sort of yip or a howl of pain. And then obviously we've got Bullseye.
And Bullseye is going to continue shooting at this one. Not with the hand axe, he isn't.
Not enough, I'm afraid. Your arrow goes a little bit wide and sinks into the ground. Okay, then make a quick roll for the friendlies. Okay, again you see sort of like Mercy's like having to like try to reload her pistol. Obviously she doesn't have like a bow on her like you do. You know yourself why reloading these pistols takes time. So she's going to be a while. Ulysses and Anne further down on the wall fire their short bows at these wolves. They don't manage to land a hit on them though. And in the next turn the wolves come charging in, and as they reach the walls they're effectively going to be like leaping the walls. These come running in here. And these come running in here. Okay, so the ones on NPCs. 1, 2. Okay, so as you guys are also like fighting and you're firing weapons at the wolves and various things like that, you hear a loud scream from the south, and as you look you see one of these wolves that has leapt over the palisade onto the sort of the short platform behind it, you watch as it tears Ulysses down to the ground. You can see that sort of fighting has broken out elsewhere as these wolves are like leaping up at people, but everyone else seems to have pretty much fended these wolves off. You can see the soldiers of Fort Eastburn are sort of like pushing their spears out and sort of trying to force this thing away from the cart. Obviously we have Clarence, Quentin and yourself, Malcolm, sort of fighting off this other wolf. There is also, of course, Weimar and your man who is the leader of your defence, Cotton Nickel, so fighting off this. However, there is one wolf that's going to be attacking you, Weimar, which is the one that's sort of been shot, which is here as it leaps up towards you. And I'm going to make a quick roll for that. Okay, you take 4 points of damage as this wolf, with a mighty leap, obviously these are humongous, like dire wolves, leaps up onto the roof of the building and it rakes you with one of its filth-encrusted claws. Okay, back round to you guys again. Malcolm.
I will drop my bow and take out my sword and try and smash this. Okay, so that's 4 points of damage on him.
Okay, yeah, you stab your sword into the flank of this creature as it's launching this assault on you, and you're rewarded when you see splatters of its blood fall onto the, sort of staining the wood of the palisade red. Quentin.
I take it this one's now in stabbing distance.
Yes, very much so.
Right, and so I will throw the bow behind my shoulder and stab it with my silver dagger.
Go for it. And stab it you do. It's assailed from both sides as first Malcolm shanks it with his sword, and then as it's trying to pull away from that, you come in from the other side, Quentin, sort of coming up underneath it with your silver dagger and plunge it into the chest of this beast. It's still going. Obviously they're quite tough given the size of them, but you can see that there's you're wearing it down. Okay, Weimar. There's a wolf on the roof that's lashing at you with its claws.
Yeah, the roof it has a wolf, and
as the old song goes.
Yeah, as you do. I'll once again bring out the sun sword.
Okay, you pull out the sun sword, and there's the obligatory yeah, there's sunlight shines out from it.
And it's not as impressive in daylight, but
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's gonna be shield, sun sword, and we're gonna deal with this. Presumably not undead, John.
No.
I thought to check, but here we go. Come on, praise Gale. No. No.
Okay, so you do draw the sword out and you would lash out with what would have been a very telling blow. However, you're effectively fighting on a thatched roof. So as your footing's very unsure because it's a thatched roof. So as you're sort of going to attack it, your foot goes through a weak patch in the thatch, your sort of wooden peg leg. So there's a narrower frontage to it, and you actually sort of sink down. You quickly pull your leg out, but it throws the aim of your attack off. However, we've still got Bullseye.
So Bullseye is going to head this way, and not quite there, but there, and sword, hand axe, and this wolf is the target. Come on, Wolf's Eye. I guess that's the new name. No, unfortunately, no.
Okay, so Bullseye runs along like the sort of little palisade wall, like launches himself in with his hand axe, but doesn't manage to land a telling blow on it. So I'm going to roll for the friendlies. Okay, so as you watch, you hear a cry of jubilation from one of the Fort Eastburn guards as he plunges his spear into the wolf that's trying to get over the cart. And you see it sort of shy back as this spear's plunged into its side. As you watch his fellow, undoubtedly buoyed by the success of his fellow soldier, also jabs his spear into the side of the same wolf. As you you glance across Weimar in the direction of Bullseye's shouting, and you see Mercy Dixon as like Bullseye comes running in, she stops. She just like drops her pistol onto like the floor next to her, pulls out a short sword and stabs it into the wolf that's menacing her. You hear it howl in pain as her sword finds its mark. Okay, and then it's onto the wolves. So the one that's got Quentin, Malcolm and Clarence, I'll make a quick roll to see which of you it's going to attack, because it's just
could I have put myself in harm's way to attract the attack?
If you wish to do that, you certainly can do.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, you don't have to make a roll for it, that's absolutely fine. Basically, if you're sort of like throwing yourself in front of it, it will just attack whoever's in front of it. That's an 18.
21 is the number.
Okay, yeah, so it lunges towards you, attempting to latch its strong jaws onto you. However, at the last moment, you pirouette out of the way of it, and its jaws snap on empty air. Okay, the next one attacking the two guards from Eastburn. With renewed vigour, perhaps spurred by the injuries it's taken, it pretty much smashes through the cart rather than going over it, and you see one of the Eastburn guards basically gets like grabbed in its mouth and is like pulled back through the wreckage of the cart. You watch from your vantage point, Quentin and Malcolm, as this huge wolf pretty much throws this guy around like a rag doll, and after a few moments flings his body onto the ground, where it lies limp and broken. Okay, so we have the wolf attacking Weimar.
Yes, Gale is with us.
Indeed, you managed to evade its snapping jaws. Okay, so the other one's going to be attacking Cotton Nickel. You hear shouts from Nickel as he's like fending it off. Then we've got the other three down here. This one's going to move up here. So we've got two attacking Mercy and Anne. They're fending it off quite well, and then we've got one attacking Bullseye. Okay, that's 5 points of damage for Bullseye. Johannes, as this wolf clamps its jaws onto his leg, you hear a loud swearing exclamation from the tall ice walker man as he's basically sort of going like that with his axe and trying to like bat it off his leg. You can see some blood dribbling around its mouth as it's clamped onto like his thigh basically.
He's just about to get his artery nicked, so he's very close to death.
Yeah. As you sort of look over, you can obviously see like Bullseye's looking in like a bad state. Okay, back round to you guys, Malcolm.
Yeah, I will just lay into this one near me with my sword. Oh, that'll do. Oh, that'll do. 10 points of damage on him.
Okay. That is almost enough to kill it.
Oh.
Almost. So you stab the sword of respect into this dire wolf, and it sort of starts like falling back a bit. You can see from the way it's moving, it's uncoordinated. Like one of its legs is like dragging uselessly on the ground. It's obviously trying to like pull itself away from you, but you can tell it's like it's not long for this world, thanks to your mighty blow. However, before it manages to crawl away from you, obviously we've got Quentin.
Stab it.
Go for it. Okay, so as this sort of already like nearly dead dire wolf's trying to crawl away from you, would you like to describe the cinematic fashion in which you dispatch it?
Trying to crawl. It's not really going to be cinematic if it's crawling away, is it?
Well, I was trying to talk you up a bit, mate, you know.
I will just plant the base of the knife up to the hilt in the back of its neck.
Yep, you literally like sort of jump on the back of it, which, like you say, it's nearly dead, so it can't resist, and you drive your silver knife up under its skull. It lets out a long, sort of like strangulated, sort of spittle encrusted howl, which only chokes off as you like ram the rest of your dagger and like half of your hand home, and then as you pull it out and let go of the head that you've been holding onto with your other hand, it just slumps forward and lies still, its last breath hissing out in a wisp of smoke. Okay. One more.
It's just gonna be the same, really. Need to get rid of at least one of these. So, Sun Sword, once again, flashes out. Hopefully, this time I won't fall through the roof, but we'll see. That's better. That's much better.
Yep, so you plunge the Sun Sword into the creature. The light momentarily dimming as it enters the body of the creature. You pull it out. Again, you can see that this wolf is now, its movements are a lot more slow and uncoordinated. You can see that like one of its eyes appear to be slightly glazed over and unfocused. You think it's pretty much done for, but with the sort of savagery of a cornered beast, it's just snapping out wildly now. Like any sort of coordination is gone. It's almost like in its death throes, effectively. Okay, we've got Bullseye.
Right, so Bullseye is going to do the sort of best thing he can currently, which is like he's gonna get his foot free and he's gonna fall down.
Yep.
And provided he's able, he's gonna, get himself up and switch to a bow and
Yep.
continue shooting up there. Because I presume like these are basically like walking up to the sort of palisade or jumping.
Well, they're jumping up to it. They're dire wolves. They're like twice the size of a normal wolf.
Yeah, because it doesn't take a lot of effort to get across. So he's going to try and put a shot in with the short bow while contemplating when would be wise to actually go away and tend to his wounds.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Short bow. Come on. No, he's too unsteady, and I think he probably just like staggers back on the ground. It's like, oh, and he's like, basically there's like a red streak from the wall to where he is standing currently because he's bleeding.
Indeed. Okay. So friendly NPCs. Okay, so the guard at the gate is having no luck sort of further stabbing this wolf that's just killed his fellow soldier. Cotton Nichols sort of like flailing around at this other direwolf, not the one you've just hit, Weimar, trying to sort of like bat it away from the roof to stop it getting up, but he's not managed to do any damage to it yet. Then we have the battle for the south wall. And again, they don't seem to be doing great either. They're managing to sort of keep them off, but Mercy and Anne, they're sort of slowly being overwhelmed because there's 3 of these like creatures on them pretty much. Okay, so for the wolves themselves, the one attacking the Eastburn guard at the gate. Again, there is another scream as this time the wolf sort of fully smashes its way through the cart and it tears down the other Eastburn guard. You hear his strangled scream as he's sort of smashed to the ground underneath this creature. Okay, so the one attacking Weimar.
Right. This guy? I presume, yeah.
So again, it flashes out with its claw, and you take 3 hit points of damage.
Okay, that was not what I wanted to do. Here we go.
I was going to say, I've got to admit, I felt a little bit of concern then when your hit points just went burp.
Yes.
I was like, damn!
19 damage.
What kind of hellspawn wolf is this?
It's like, I didn't realize I put this in the game.
Okay, the one attacking Cotton Nickel. Oof. Unfortunately, hits him. You hear like a shouted sort of scream that tapers off into a curse as this thing clamps its jaws onto Cotton Nickel. And then we've got the 3 on Mercy and Anne. Okay, against all the odds, they're guided by Mercy Dixon. Sort of like, she's like shouting orders to Anne, and you know she's had some military training. The way she's like shouting orders. Although they've not really been able to damage these walls, they are doing a pretty good job of sort of fending them off and sort of like not taking any damage themselves. It's back around to you guys again.
Okay. So I want to call out to Quentin to take care of this wolf. And I want to move. I can use double my movement, can I?
Yeah, as long as you don't attack, you can move double.
Right, so that gets me kind of down here somewhere. Probably here, where the same spot where Weimar is. And I will, I guess, call out to Weimar to look after the south wall and then make myself as big as possible to attract the attention of the 2 wolves on the roofs.
Okay, no problem. So Malcolm shouts for Quentin to like deal with the wolf at the gate, sprints across, sort of skids to a halt, like weapon in hand, shouts at you, Weimar, to like deal with the south wall, and then he basically starts giving it the like, come on, what are you waiting for? As he's like fronting up to these giant wolves. Okay, Quentin.
Stab the next wolf.
Okay.
No.
Okay, no luck, unfortunately. No. Okay, so Weimar.
Right. So if we're thinking like 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, If I can, and I think this is the way we've played it before, as I go, I'll switch to a bow and take a
Yeah,
shot.
that's fine.
Go.
It's good.
Hmm?
Okay, yeah, so your arrow sinks into the side of the wolf that lets out a howl of pain. Mercy Dixon briefly looks in your direction, gives a nod as she's sort of like trying to attack this thing with her short sword. Okay, then it's Bullseye.
Bullseye's doing the same thing. No. I think he's in a bad way.
Yeah, I think he's too banged up. You can see, like, as he's like lifting his bow up, like his hands are like shaking a bit because of the shock, and his arrow just like sticks into the wooden palisade. Okay, so friendly NPCs. We've got Clarence up there with Quentin. He's gonna have a pop at this wolf. This sword doesn't manage to do it any damage. Okay, so we've got Cotton Nickel. Okay, so as the wolf that's fighting Cotton Nickel sort of leaps up towards it, he plunges his hand with his sword like into its mouth, and then in that sort of like cinematic style, as it's sort of like spasming on the end of his sword, he kicks it off the end of his sword and its body falls to the ground with a loud thump. He looks up, he's covered in blood and gore, and he's like shouting down, and he's like, "Is that all you've got?" Okay, then we've got Mercy and Anne down here. Okay. And between the two of them, they are able to finish off the wolf that you have just shot, Weimar, leaving only two of them remaining up here. Then it's on to the wolves. So Clarence is nearer, so the wolves can attack him. However, between Quentin and Clarence, they're able to fend it off. We've got the one that Harp's attracting attention to, so it's going to attack him as it's sort of leaping over the wall. However, it doesn't manage to get purchase on you, Malcolm. Move it a bit across to here. There we go. And we've got the two down here fighting against Mercy and Anne. You hear a loud curse as one of the wolves rakes Mercy with its claws. You see like a large cut open across her left shoulder. And it's back around to you guys again. Malcolm.
So I want to stick it to this wolf. Here we go. Not so much. Like graze him peacefully. It's more like a pet.
Indeed, just sort of like gently buff his fur with your sword. Okay, Malcolm. So we've done Malcolm, so it's Quentin.
I'll just continue to try and stab this one.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Weimar.
Right. Sling the bow, shield, sun sword. We're going in. Rooting myself in place by impaling the wolf corpse with my peg leg. I'll take a swipe at the next one.
Okay.
No.
So then there's Bullseye, of course.
Yep. Bullseye is going to shuffle over this direction Take a shot at this one. But that didn't roll at all. 12.
Okay. So, onto the friendly NPC. So we've got Clarence up there fighting alongside Quentin. Doesn't manage to do any damage. We've got Anne and Mercy down in the south, who between the two of them managed to stab one of the wolves. Okay, and then as you're fighting up here, Harp, the wolf that's been menacing you sort of gets ready to leap towards you, and then as it does, like, its legs just seem to like give out underneath it, and it like collapses onto its side. You can like none of you have touched it. Cotton Nichols not shot it or anything. It just seems to like keel over and collapse. You can see it's still like breathing, but the breathing's like very laboured.
And did we see anything happen to it, or it just collapsed?
It just seemed to keel over. Okay, and it's back to you guys again.
Can I stab it in the neck?
Yeah.
While it's
Not a problem. You don't even have to
Vaguely.
make a roll for that. As you head over it, you draw your sword out your barrel to plunge into it. And as you do, now you're a bit more close. You can see it's breathing, but it's still laboured. You notice again, it's already got like pre-existing wounds sort of on the side of it. And as you look at the wounds, you can see there's like a trace of some sort of like viscous substance, like just like clinging to the edge of the wounds. Almost like a thick sort of liquid,
okay.
colourless.
Okay, does it look like anything we've ever seen before? Any
Not really.
venom we'd have seen, or
Not really. I mean, like you say, you might assume it's a venom or some sort of poison, but
Yeah.
it's not one you're familiar with.
okay. So I think my plan would be to basically kill him in one blow if I can, and head south to help Weimar.
Yeah, you do the dramatic where you sort of step up to it and you plunge the sword down into its neck, and it expires.
I'll just come down to here. And then same again, making myself really big and obnoxiously loud to
Okay,
draw attention.
Quentin, what about the North Gate?
Yeah, I shall try and stab this thing yet again.
Oh, there we go.
3 points of damage.
Okay, and stab it you do. It's still going, but it's starting to look rough now as you plunge your silver dagger into it again and again and again. You hear like Clarence, who's next to you, is like sort of like fighting it with his spear, and he's been like pushing it back with you. He's like, "Come on, we've got it on the ropes!" As he's like jabbing his spear towards it. Weimar.
Okay. Yeah. No. We once more into the breach. Still in the breach, doing very little.
Making it look good.
Indeed. Okay, you've still got
Yeah.
Bullseye.
Yeah, Bullseye is going to once again desperately trying to steady his hand enough to get a short bow shot off at this one. No, I think he's just done. Like he's actually just tending to his leg wound now instead of actually shooting anywhere.
That's fair. So right, so the friendlies, we've got Clarence up there fighting with Quentin, who plunges his spear as he shouts, "We've got it on the ropes." He plunges his spear into the wolf, finishing it off. Then we've got Mercy and Anne fighting these two down here. They're holding their own, but they don't seem to be doing any major damage to the wolves. So the wolves themselves, those two are going to attack Mercy and Anne down in the south. Again, they seem to be doing quite a good job of holding them off, though, and the wolves aren't able to get purchase on them. Back around to you guys again. Malcolm.
Okay, so I will jump in here and try and smash this one here. And definitely get right up into his face, so that's me. He attacks next. Okay, that looks like a hit for 3 more points of damage.
Indeed it does. As you leap up, you jab the tip of your sword into this creature, and it howls in pain. Okay, Quentin, the wolf you were fighting is dead. It is an ex-wolf.
Right, so I shall start making my way towards this little group over here.
Okay, that's fine. If you're not attacking in this turn, you can move, double your move.
There you go.
Yep, you run up next to Bullseye. You see like this tall, like sort of Nordic ice walker. Normally they're pretty pale with like piercing blue eyes, but he is like beyond pale. He's like almost the colour of the snow. You can see he's got several deep wounds across him. He's trying to like staunch the flow of blood on this like horrendous like bite wound he's got on his leg. Okay, Weimar.
Stand your ground! And then we swipe once again, doing nothing. Making a good show of it, though.
Indeed. Okay, however, there's still Bullseye.
Okay, being sort of satisfied with the very impromptu, like, a cloth tourniquet that he's got going, I'll... Once more. Same target. Is it actually a hit this time? 13?
It is indeed. Which one was he shooting at?
The sort of this guy.
Okay, so Bullseye sort of manages to pull himself together enough to fire off an arrow. It sinks into this wolf that howls in pain as the arrow sort of sails past Malcolm and sinks into its side. Okay, so friendly NPCs. Clarence is going to take up a position here, like since the cart's been mulched, he's sort of trying to protect that. We've got Mercy and Anne down here fighting these wolves, so make a quick roll for them. Okay, so Anne manages to stab her sword into one of the wolves. It's now starting to look a bit ropey. Mercy sort of like gives her the thumbs up, but she's too busy like trying to fend off the other one. Okay, so the wolves, we've got one attacking Malcolm. Doesn't even get close to you, Malcolm. And then we've got one attacking Anne. Okay, there is a loud scream from Anne as the wolf literally like jumps into her, pushing her off the wall of the palisade and into the village proper. There's a sickening crunch as she disappears underneath the body of this giant wolf, and her scream is cut off in a strangulated gurgle. Back around to you guys.
So I will, quite upset about the death of Anne, turn around and swing at the creature that just killed her.
Okay.
Oh, that'll do.
And swing you do.
So 7 total.
Okay, so would you like to describe how, with the righteous fury of anger fueling your blow, you dispatch this creature? As it's literally stood on top of the mangled body of Anne.
Yeah, so as it's kind of standing there, kind of getting ready to go down for a bite, and I just kind of run up behind it and come down with like kind of two arms and kind of chop its head off and just kind of proper wreck it.
And that's what happens. We see sort of in a cinematic style its mouth going forward to like clamp around the head of the deceased body of Anne. However, as it does so, its head continues forward with the sound of your shunk, and the head tumbles off the body and rolls a short distance away from the body of Anne, never having made that last bite. There is only one of the wolves remaining. So, Quentin.
I shall switch back to bow and shoot that wolf.
Go for it.
Nope.
Okay, no dice, I'm afraid. One more. What do you do?
I stride forwards across the corpses and take another swing. Please connect. I think we might be onto something here.
Ooh,
Yes.
Indeed. You have struck the wolf. However, it's not enough to kill it. It's definitely looking worse for wear, though. And obviously we've still got Bullseye. Can he pull it out of the bag for one last final shot? Can he steady his aim enough?
Let's see. There's the first person footage of like the breathing slowing down, the heartbeat slowing because he's bleeding.
Yes.
And there's that one frozen moment when he's not breathing, he's holding his breath, and his heart has just beat. And here we go. Does he get... Yeah, he does!
Oh!
He does get Shrek'd.
Okay, so now we finally get to see why he's called Bullseye. So would you like to describe how, marshalling the last of his strength, he dispatches this foul creature?
I think it's... I'm accidentally said it before, but I think it's going to be a cool thing to carry forwards. Like, he fires off the last shot and, you know, starts collapsing on one knee immediately afterwards, and then, like, slowly, like, folds into the ground, watching the arrow sail, and it hits the wolf in the eye, and the wolf just, like, pitches off the palisade, and he goes down. And henceforth, he shall be known as Wolf's Eye. But that'll come later.
So yeah, so I like to think that he, as he sort of like topples to the ground, he's basically like, he's like, that's what you get. Like falls.
That's all you got.
Okay, and after a few moments of looking around, you can see that there are no more wolves remaining.
Can I examine the wolf that collapsed and see if we can if I can work out what the viscous substance on his wounds was?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine. You head over to the wolf that just like collapsed. Obviously, you've killed it. It's thoroughly dead. You look at the wounds, and again, you see like this very thick, almost like viscous, like colourless, clear liquid, sort of clinging to the sort of large claw marks that are down its side.
Okay. And if I like grab a torch and put the torch to the viscous substance, is it like flammable?
It doesn't appear to be flammable. However, as you sort of like touch a burning torch to it, there's like an acrid, sort of almost like acidic like smell sort of wafts up from it. Okay.
So I'll turn to Weimar and Quentin and say I'm not sure what attacked these creatures that forced them to travel towards our village, but whatever it is, it's clearly a creature with some sort of poison or venom. I suggest we burn these creatures and see if we can't trace their tracks back to find out what creature attacked them.
And you'll probably agree with me, Malcolm, that if you look at the claw marks, we're talking about something that is very big.
Yes.
A very large thing. I say let's take a sample of whatever this is. I'll gesture at the stuff, and we'll get it to the sage for later.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as you're doing that, you see Mercy Dixon has like climbed down from the wall, and she's doing that thing, you go like that, and you like close the eyes of a dead person on Anne. You see she's sort of like lowered her head, she's like mumbling something under her breath, and like closes Anne's eyes. She takes off her cloak and just sort of like drapes it over like her ruined body to cover it. She sort of like looks up in the direction of you guys who are gathered around, and then she says, like quite a sort of through like gritted teeth, she's like, she was a brave woman. I wish I had a chance to know about her.
She was.
And she sort of like bows her head respectfully. Then she sort of like looks around and she's like, did either of my men, which looks at you, Quentin, she knows you're up the North Gate. She's like, did any of my men make it?
No.
Again, she sort of like lowers her head a little bit and says, good men, both of them. Their loss will be
fought well.
keenly, as I'm sure they would. Well, we all knew the risk when we got into this business.
You'll agree that we might benefit from a close proximity when it comes to the garrison.
I think given recent events, and you see like she's sort of holding her side where she's got this, where she like grimaces occasionally in pain. Her voice is a bit sort of a bit of a strain. He says, "Yes, I don't think I really have any cause to argue with your assessment given recent events. When I return to my lord, I shall make a strong recommendation that he agree to your terms."
Anything special you want done on behalf of your soldiers?
No, a simple ceremony is fine. I'm sure you understand, when we entered a life in the military, we knew this was probably going to be our fate. None of us are greatly religious. Whatever simple ceremony you conduct for your brave defenders will be more than suitable for my men.
Well,
I think it's only right, with your permission, that they be buried here. After all, this is where, like your people, they fought and died.
That's fine. So I presume we're gonna start and go through the process of, cleaning up, getting the bodies buried, all that.
Yeah, no problems. Yeah, so it's probably getting to sort of like early evening by the time you've checked out the sort of surrounding area. You've gathered up the bodies, you've burnt these wolves, etc. All of that sort of stuff. Enos, the man from McCord's Bandits who brought you a warning, he's out of immediate danger, although he's going to take some time to recover. As you're all sort of like gathered round afterwards, the grim business of burying being done, Enos says he's basically laid down, but he's like, oh, you've got to get to the forest. McCord might still be alive out there.
I think he's right. I think we should go and see.
He says, I left her just beyond the outskirts of the woods to the northeast. I was a faster runner, so she sent me ahead to warn you.
Go take a look.
Yeah, I think so.
Go.
Okay. You all head off into the woods to the northeast, and after a while searching around, it's just sort of getting to early evening by the time you finish your search, and you eventually find Remember McCord, this quite sort of stern looking woman wearing like furs and piecemeal armour. She's alive, but she's seriously injured. She's slumped against a tree. You can see the bodies of pretty much all of her men lying around her, sort of slaughtered, and there's 6 of these huge wolves sort of mingled in with the corpses of her dead people. At first you don't even spot her because there's so many dead bodies, and then you hear like a and you see her sort of like slumped against this tree, a crossbow sort of like clasped across her chest. She's covered in blood. She's alive, but she doesn't look very healthy.
Okay. So I will, I guess, kneel down beside her and give her some water and kind of help clean her face.
Yeah, she takes a couple of gulps at first, and then she's like, and then she starts like sipping more gently. She's like, "Thank you."
Tell me, did you see where the wolves came from, or what caused them to attack?
A day ago, we found to the north, a couple of miles to the northeast of here, we found some large wolves like these, and she points a shaking hand at some of the corpses. Dead. They had huge claw marks in them, and I think they've been poisoned. We were about to investigate when we were set up on them. Almost as though they were heading southwestwards, almost as though they were fleeing from something. We tried to hold them off, but some got past her. And then she sort of like, as though she's like, her mind's all unmuddled in she's memory. She's like, "Tell me, did Enos make it to New Zealand?"
He did.
Oh,
He did.
God.
Badly wounded, but he lives still.
Good. And she sort of laughs, and then
and in enough time to warn us.
She laughs, and it sort of breaks off into a racking cough as it obviously pains her. And she says, "Well, he's not much of a bandit, but he's the fastest runner I have. I'm glad he was able to reach you and warn you. Is the village safe?"
Yeah. It is, for now. Not without our casualties, but the village is safe.
Good.
Let me bind your wounds as best I can, and we will bring you back to the village.
She nods.
And we'll check for other survivors amongst your men. And I'll start binding up her wounds while the others check for survivors.
Yep, you check around, you don't find any other survivors, but you are able to bring McCord back to the village. She's out of any immediate danger, but like Enos, she's going to need to like rest and recuperate for a while.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. So I guess we need to go back and bury McCord's men after we have made sure she's out of danger. And then I guess we need to decide whether we're going to follow this creature, whatever this creature is.
Okay, so by the time you guys have finished, like presumably burning the wolf corpses and burying McCord's men, it's getting to early evening. So for convenience, I'm going to say that you all like sort of reconvene back in the village to like plan your next move. Because like I say, because obviously you don't really want to be like tramping around the woods for some unknown beast like in the dark, and it's getting on a bit. So you all reconvene back in the village. McCord's men are buried. These other wolves that were in the forest have been burnt. Again, some of them have this viscous like liquid on their wounds. But as it starts getting dark, you all reconvene back in the village to discuss your next move.
I think we need more guards. We've lost at least 2. just today, and we were already a number short.
Or our traveling companions.
Yeah. And as loath as I am to leave the village with such a creature a number of days to the north, I really think that we need to find more men to protect us. I don't know how soon the Lord might send men if he does agree to build a tower, but my sense is we need to find our own men and hire our own guards.
Yeah, and we can't rely solely on the tower.
No.
Mercy Dixon, so obviously sort of like tending to her own wounds, but she's obviously gathered around with you guys. It's like, well, I can certainly put in a request that a temporary garrison be sent to New Zealand to bolster your forces, but obviously I'll have to get back to the fort in order to make that request. So it'd be at least a couple of days before we could get anyone here. I mean, I could head to my tower at Staffstone and spare some of my men, but even that would take at least a day.
And is there many men to be hired in the fort these days?
There are always people willing to sell their swords, so to speak, but as for the quality of the training of such freelancers, I couldn't say.
Mm-hmm. Training we can provide.
She nods.
Mercy, would you be able to travel to the fort and hire 10 men for us and send them down to New Zealand for us to save us traveling?
I don't think that'd be a problem. However, it'd be quicker if I went to my tower, Staffstone, and requisitioned 10 men to send here. I think, given that you are willing to accept our offer of building a tower here, with the alterations in location that you had said, I think as a sign of good faith, I'd be perfectly happy to temporarily send 10 of my men here to help bolster your village. At least then I'd know that they had sufficient standard of training.
Okay, well, let us do that, and then that will allow us to travel north and see what creature might have done this damage to these wounds.
Very well,
I'll south towards us.
I'll start heading back to Staffstone at first light once I've had time to rest a little.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm going to suggest, guys, we have a short 5-minute break here, refresh your drinks, etc. Then we can come back and it'll be the start of the next day. You guys can decide how you want to proceed.
Oh.
Okay, so we'll be back in 5. There we go, man. Bit of wolf fighting to ease you back into the game, man.
That's it, mate. Nothing like some giant wolf trying to kill you.
That's it.
Ollie.
Well, you know the old saying, man, what doesn't kill you only increases your XP total.
That's true, man.
I'm looking forward to like the next time you guys try and like hire like hirelings or retainers, and they're like, so what happened to like your previous hirelings? Well,
Ignore this gravesite.
They went upstate.
that's it. Well, we've sent them all to live on a special farm.
Retirement plan.
That's it, yeah.
That.
Okay, so now, as a little bit of an aside, I'm going to ask Weimar, can you please come up with the name of someone who you were fairly close to back in your military days? Could be male, female, someone you got on with quite well when you were fighting in the armed forces of your homeland. And a brief description if you want. That's fine. Could be 1 or 2 words, whatever.
Okay. So we're gonna call this person. I put it in the chat. Cedric Cadle.
Okay. And if you had to pick a couple of words to describe Cedric Cadle, what would they be?
This is from the army.
Yes, from your military days, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe this is like a sort of camp follower. I'm thinking like basically a scavenger, like a looter that goes over the battlefield after the fighting is done and gets the good bits. Kind of like a merchant, very self-motivated.
Okay, and for what reason was your character close to this person? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you were like brothers in arms, but you had a regard for each other.
I think it was because Wymore was trying to make sure that the people that he knew that died, that he could get their like personal effects and send them home if that was possible. So he would find Cadle after a fight and be like, oh, I saw my friend go down. Like, I know that you go over the corpses, so like I want to buy this thing.
Okay, so the last time you saw Cadle, he was actually sort of getting out of his previous job. He was like, you sort of lost touch with him a little bit, and you'd heard he'd gone into like sort of independent, like mercenary work, but you haven't really had like any contact with him since. Now, on the sort of night when you finished burying everyone, you've got McCord, etc. You're all sort of retiring for the evening. You're like, we'll discuss this further in the morning. You're heading back to whichever building you've decided to shack up in the village, Weimar, when suddenly, and from behind you, like without you having heard anyone approach, like an arm's looped around your neck, and you feel like a very small like blade just like being like pressed against your neck, not enough to draw blood, but just being like pressed against your neck there to let you know of its presence. And you hear the familiar voice of Cedric Cadle just say, "You're getting slow, my friend."
I lost a leg.
At which point you hear sort of like laughter, and the knife's like taken away from your throat, and you turn around and you see Cedric Cadle stood there, although he's like several years older and looks like he's been through some stuff since you last saw him.
Yeah. So this is unexpected. Did they stop killing people on the old continent?
He says, "Well, no. After last time I saw you, I got out of the scavenging game. I did a spell as a mercenary, and then I moved into more specialist work. And as he sort of like puts this tiny like sort of stiletto style like dagger away, you see he's got like a sort of bandolier with like knives across his chest, and he just sort of like slides the one he was holding into this bandolier.
You've got friends in high places then.
He says, I'm not sure high places is the right word for them, but I thought given how good you were to me previously that I ought to at least come and warn you. He says, listen, Lone Grove, I don't know what you and your friends have been up to, but someone's put a price on your heads.
Which continent?
Varkonen. He says, look, I don't know exactly who it was, but I know it was fairly recent, and the price is pretty large.
Okay. Are we talking just me, or are there
you
others?
And your friends?
Right.
I think there was four names in all, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and I presume you're going to want some form of payment for this, seeing as you turned down said bounty just now, or at least 1/4 of it.
No, that's fine. I consider it a recompense for all the times you helped me out. I wasn't really able to pay you back then, but I can pay you back now with this. Let's just consider us square. Besides, I'm not going to be able to stay around here much longer. If it's found out from my friends that I've warned you about this contract, then they'll come after me as well. It's not the done thing, you see, amongst the circles I now move in.
Well, John Smith, I'm glad to have made your acquaintance, and I shall do my best to forget that this ever happened. Be careful out there.
And you,
Shake his hand.
and he sort of shakes your hand, turns around and like disappears off into the darkness. Now, Quentin and Malcolm, if you wanted to have been nearby and have seen or heard any of that, you can have been, because it was just as you were all like getting ready for the night. So, entirely up to you guys.
Interesting. I wonder who we have upset.
Who would have the coin?
It has to be one of the lords.
Or our resident sage? But probably wouldn't put a bounty on us.
As you're saying
Weimar is
saying that, Weimar, you sort of like move it, and Quentin, with your sort of like, because obviously you're always on the lookout, given your sort of your vacation, shall we say. As Weimar's sort of moving, you spot that like, and you probably saw this when the person was actually doing this. When they were like shaking Weimar's hand, they like slipped something into like his jerkin. Like Weimar doesn't seem to have noticed, and you can just see like the top of like what looks like a bit of like red cloth or something like that, like just like poking out. It appears to have been entirely unnoticed. You're like, oh, they've got some skills, because they were just like.
I'll casually pick it out.
Yeah, so Quentin sort of like takes a step towards you, like reaches inside for like the top of your like shirt or your jerkin, basically. Weimar pulls out this like neatly rolled up bit of like red cloth that you don't remember putting in there, Weimar. You've not seen it before, and as you fold it out, Quentin, you can see that it's a small piece of red cloth, and it has like a white sort of skull with a little cross underneath it.
Is that a thing we would recognize? A symbol or...
So, is this similar to what we know about the pirates.
It's very similar. You might almost say it was the same.
It was the same icon. This is
But basically, the symbol you see, it's the same as like the tattoos that all the pirates have that you encounter.
Yeah. I don't exactly know how it works with them, but this is at least one of the symbols that the slavers use, the pirates. So this is going to be the ghost then, I think, being the sort of pirate admiral, I guess you would call it.
The fishman.
No, the fishman was a captain in their fleet of 3 ships, if I recall correctly.
So he'd have enough coin to do it then.
He would, and so would the ghost, which is the number 1 over there. But either one would probably have the coin to pull this off for sure.
And where are they? Are they near us? Do we know where they live?
We sort of, if I pull out the map, I believe we have one more of their sort of secret cove things marked out, which we didn't go to because it's the opposite direction. But we know at least 2 places where they make landfall.
Indeed. Let me move you all to the map.
But we don't exactly know where they make harbor, sort of like for repairs and that kind of thing, and resupply. Unless they just, send out the small boats, and then the folks go on land as if like, oh, we're just, pilgrims or whatever, and they go to a fort and buy stuff and come back.
Okay, so
we don't know how that works.
If you guys can all see the map now, that's the cave that they went to previously, where they met the pirates, and this is the rumoured location of the other sort of like hidden inlet that they use that they've not been to yet. And they were told at the time that like the sort of pirate fleet was like somewhere to the west of there on the coast, but they don't know specifics.
Okay.
Well, I guess there's nothing to it really. We don't have a ship, and we can't exactly, like, people know who we are because we've made absolutely no secret of it. So I guess what do? We cause more trouble for them, or do we ignore them? I guess.
Well, generally, if you remove the person paying the bounty, they can't collect it, so the price on your head should technically vanish.
Plus, they have boats that we could claim as spoils of war.
Oh yeah,
Plus, it'd be fun to rob a pirate.
Yeah, it would be fantastic, and I would like to have a bard nearby for the song afterwards. But getting to the boat would be a whole thing.
Done quietly at night.
Yeah, we just need to find one that is close to the coast, and that's going to be the first step, right?
Yes.
Well, then we need eyes on this location because they'll have boats.
Yeah. What are our priorities? The sort of garrison thing is being dealt with, right? We made a sort of plan with the castellan to.
Yes.
We need to go and figure out what this wolf wood situation is.
Yes, I think that is a priority. I think we can deal with the pirates in time.
I think probably let's go see if we can find any trace of what this is in the wolf woods, and if we can't, we'll just come back and go on with other business until something else.
Okay, but just bear in mind that forever how long we've got this price on our head, we're always going to have people coming after us.
Yes.
That are equal or better than your friend.
He's very good though. Like, I wonder what happened to him because he used to be knocking out gold teeth, from the corpses afterwards on the battlefield.
Now, Quentin, based on your sort of training, you're like pretty sure that this guy's either a very skilled thief or an assassin of some kind, given like how he managed to like get into the village without anyone spotting him and literally get right up to Weimar and be like, "Oi."
Yeah.
But he's a good one. Like even back in the bone picking days, there were people who dealt with that badly, and he wasn't one of those.
Yeah, but time changes everybody.
It does. He was not a killer back then. He was just doing business.
Well, he looks like a killer now, mate.
He does, very much so. And I'm very happy that he still remembers some of the good times.
And I think that's the only warning we're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's going to be in trouble anyway, if any of this gets out. So let's not do that.
So it'd be advantageous to deal with the actual problem then, being the pirate.
It's going to be a big trek. So I guess there's two options here. We go into the Wolfwoods to see if we can figure out anything else, and the garrison problem moves on of its own accord. And the other option is we head along the coast, try and get a sort of window to maybe deal with some of this pirate problem and the bounty, and we're going to leave all this to play out as it will, with the garrison and whatever's in the woods.
Let us spend a day in the woods. See if we can't find this creature. And if we can't, then we can go and deal with the direct pirate problem.
Okay, so obviously this is happening at the end of the evening, so you guys all head to bed, planning we can finish this discussion in the morning and then head out where we will. So you all rest up for the evening, which means you can regain 1d3 hit points if your hit points down. And obviously you can roll for bullseye as well. Yeah, he's still looking a bit rough, I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
Okay, so next morning when you guys rise, McCord has recovered a little bit, although she's still not really well enough to travel. She basically says that she can now her head's a bit clearer. If you want, she can give you directions as to where they sort of first encountered the wolves, like where they were coming from.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I'm assuming, based on previous, Weimar's like, show me on the map where the wolves were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she indicates an area here, which is like a day away, basically.
Okay, well, let's spend the 2 days traveling there, having a look around, traveling back. And then by then, she should be back from the Staffstone Tower or close enough with her 10 men. And we could be somewhat confident the village is in good hands before we go chasing pirates.
Okay. So, following the directions, you guys head out, starting fairly early. So it's probably sort of late afternoon when you get to the area. And as you arrive in this area, you can see what appears to be nestled amidst the pines of the wolf forest is what appears to be an old sort of stone, ruined chapel or an abbey, perhaps. And I will move you all onto the map. you guys can all see the map.
Not quite. I'm just refreshing.
That's fine.
Not yet.
It's fine.
It's
Okay.
loading.
It can be time to just drop your characters on there anyway. So, one question: are you taking Wolf's Eye with you?
No, he's gonna recuperate.
Okay. Okay, so hopefully you can all see that now.
Not yet, mate.
Okay, no problem. Let me know when you can all see it.
I'm there anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I can see that, mate.
Okay, cool. So, as you're looking across a small stream with a wooden bridge, the stream's pretty much frozen anyway, so you can walk across. You don't need to use the bridge. You can see what appears to be ruins of a stone abbey, and sort of at the back of it, at the sort of almost the limit of your vision, you can see what appears to be a large stone statue, and curled around it is this serpentine looking being with two large wings and an almost scorpion like tail that's sort of curled around this huge statue as though it's sort of perched on it.
How about them pirates?
It.
What do you guys want to do?
I can
Like
get a
a-
closer look.
This looks like a job for a battalion.
Maybe we should all speak in whispers.
I mean, if you did want to get a closer look at Quentin, you could certainly try and move silently attempt.
Oh, do you want me to get a closer look, or are we just going to back away and say we'll come back another time?
What are we thinking, Malcolm?
I'm thinking it might be clever enough to talk. And I'm wondering, you know, speaking about alliances,
You want to parlay with the thing?
I kind of do, yeah.
The thing that just probably sent all those wolves our way.
Yeah, but wolves don't talk.
Yeah, but they do bite people in half.
Yeah, but why don't you guys stay here and I will go and speak
Mr.
to
Azar?
it.
Waybar, can you talk to him?
Don't quite know how I would approach that.
Right, so I'm gonna walk across the bridge, bowl as brass.
Here. I'll whisper to Quentin. Here it goes.
And yeah, so I suggest you guys hide in case this goes wrong.
I'm going to
In
hide.
context. But
I like to
basically-
think you sort of like you turn around and you're like, oh, guys, I suggest you hide, and you turn around and like Quentin's just not there.
Well, I've got a roll for this. Hold on.
Yeah, just give me a sec, guys.
No worries.
Yeah, I guess behind a tree trunk I go.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
There you go, John. There's my hide roll.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll just move up to here. Is the creature asleep, do I think?
It doesn't appear to be. You notice it's sort of like its head like turning to regard you as you approach.
Ah.
And you can see like steam hissing out of its like nostrils. As you're a bit closer now, you can see that it appears to be the huge statue that it's coiled around is a huge sort of almost like granite looking statue of a man who wearing sort of strange archaic garb. He's like, it appears to have like chains around him, and you can see what look to be like fragments of like blue pigment, as though like once the skin was like painted blue, but it's all sort of worn off.
Okay.
And this thing's like coiled all around it.
And does it look like human, or is it like a...
It does look human, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what am I going to do? How do I do this? So I guess I'm just going to keep approaching.
It's sort of like heads like turning as it like watches you approach.
And when I get about whatever 20 feet away, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? I'll just kind of say, Master Wyvern, assuming I know what it is.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe bet that you're like, yeah, that looks like a wyvern.
It's a pleasure to meet you. I wonder if you might spare some time to speak to me.
It sort of tilts its head to one side slightly.
Okay. So I assume I have some sort of kind of dried meat, kind of rations in my bag. So I will take out a handful and throw it towards the wyvern.
Okay, you throw this meat towards the wyvern, and then like almost quicker than your eye can perceive, its large barbed scorpion-like tail sort of flashes out and like pierces the meat that you've dropped on the ground, and you can see this colourless liquid like dripping from the end of the stinger as it impales this meat, then sort of brings it back on the tail and sort of pulls the meat off with its sharp fanged jaws.
Okay. So I'll throw it a second bit.
Yeah, again the same thing's happened. The tail's like...
Okay. And has it made any other movements, or is it...
It's still following you, but it's not made any sort of movements towards you. One thing you do notice, however, is as the stinger like plunges into the meat, where it does, where this colourless liquid touches the meat almost immediately seems to sort of like blacken and darken in colour.
Okay. Did that happen with the wolves too? Did they blacken and darken around the wounds?
Yeah, the area around the wounds was sort of darker, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think I will throw a third piece of meat, and as I do so, approach to within 10 feet.
Okay, as you step forward, it lets out a roar. And again, the tail goes like... and it grabs the meat.
Was it a go away roar, or a...
It seemed to be quite a sort of threatening roar, and it only sort of really made it as you moved closer to it.
Okay. So I guess what I will do then is start backing up.
As you're doing, it's like chowing down on the last bit of meat you've thrown it.
Yeah.
You see it sort of like stirs a little bit restlessly as its coils move around the statue.
And I guess I'll just keep dropping further and further away.
Okay.
And see if it.
At first, it doesn't appear to react. Then again, you hear a roar from behind you, and as you look back, you see this thing sort of like unfurl these wings and with like a. It sort of like takes off from uncoiling from around the statue into the air, and it starts like gliding rapidly across the ground towards you.
Okay. Okay.
Its slavering jaws wide open.
Okay, so I want to stand up in front of it, like I don't want to show any fear, because I'm familiar with predators, and I know that they react to fear. So I just want to kind of stand up, kind of face to face with it.
Okay, roll me 2d6.
Okay. Seven.
Okay, it lands maybe about 10 feet away from you. You feel the sort of downdraft gust around you as it lands, and again it sort of like it lets out a mighty roar in your direction.
It's about 10 feet away from me, is it?
Yep. While this is going on, what are Quentin and Weimar up to?
Watching the
Hiding.
events unfold.
I am one with the bushes.
Okay.
In fact, if there's a me-shaped hole in a tree, I'll be inside the tree.
Nice. Okay, so this thing's landed and it's growling menacingly at you. Malcolm, what do you do?
Okay, so I want to take a step towards it and see what happens.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, I presume you 25's a hit.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so the tail flashes out and this barbed tail sinks into your shoulder. Make me a poison save.
Awesome. So, where's my? Death and poison. Oh, that's a pass.
Okay, so as it pulls out, you can see there's like a dribble of this clear liquid on your shoulder. For a few moments, you feel like very woozy and weak. Your vision sort of swims in front of your eyes, and you sort of stagger back a few places as you feel the sharp pain as this barbed, poisonous sting is like and pulled out of your shoulder. As you feel the hot breath on this thing as it's sort of like slowly moving towards you now on its two legs. Obviously, presumably this is how it hunts. You're a sort of ranger type. Presumably it's expecting you to be like lying on the ground dead after poisoning you, so it's sort of like slowly moving towards you, like growling all the time. Possibly a little bit wary because you've not immediately fallen over.
Okay.
Obviously, you've taken 6 damage.
Yeah, I've added them. So what I think I want to do is roll around the side of it.
Okay.
And I guess I want to hit it with my sword and see if I can startle it enough to scare it back to where it's going.
Yeah, go for it.
Did that work? No, hang on. $18.
Okay, that is indeed a hit. So you managed to find a sort of weak point in its scaled hide and drive your sword into it. It does let out a sort of pained, slightly higher pitched roar. However, it doesn't seem to fly away or anything like that. So since we're sort of in combat rounds now, Weimar and Quentin, what do? You've seen sort of Malcolm like backing off, throwing meat and whatever, and then this thing's got close to him and it's like, and you've seen him sort of like grab his shoulder and like roll out the way, stab into it.
I'll, I suppose, run forward a bit to the other end of the bridge here.
Okay.
Longbow. Take a shot. Could have used the bigger damage, but
Okay, your arrow glances at the creature, and again it lets out a roar. Quentin.
I'm going to move silently over here.
Okay, feel free to move yourself and make your move silently, Ron.
Move silently as only you can see.
Yep. Okay. So you run across softly and as silently as you can across this frozen river and underneath the big tree. To be honest, the thing's not paying a great deal of attention to you at the minute. Okay. So what are we saying, Dave?
So that suits me, mate. As long as it's not paying attention to me, it's fine.
Okay. So now this creature is going to attempt to bite Malcolm.
No need for that. Ooh.
Okay, you take 13 hit points of damage as this huge, almost draconic-like jaws clamp onto one of your legs.
Okay.
And it's pretty much sort of like lifted you up into the air by one of your legs.
Okay, so it proper has me stuck. I can't move.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, swinging upside down from its mouth, and just going to try and cut its neck and try and damage the soft under part of its body.
Go for it.
Oh, hang on. I've done something wrong there. Okay. 17.
Oh, just enough. So again, you manage to injure the creature. And at this point, I will actually make a morale check for it. Which it succeeds at. So you slice into it, but it's still like shaking you around by your leg. Weimar. You can see this thing, Malcolm's like hanging. One of his legs is entirely in its mouth. He's sort of hanging upside down, like, trying to slice at it with his sword.
walk up there, sling the bow, shield, pistol, take a shot.
Go for it. Okay, it's not enough to hit it. However, your black powder weapon has discharged, so it needs to make a morale check. As there's this almighty crack and smoke billows out, and indeed it has failed. So, surprised by the sudden acrid smoke and the crack of your firearm, it drops Malcolm, gives a few mighty beats of its wings, and takes off into the sky.
I'll come. Can you move?
I can limp.
I think we need to go.
You can see, by the way, that it's gone
Yes, let us go.
You see it's gone like high up in the sky. It's not like it's gone like a few feet up. It's gone like well up. It's like a little dot in the sky.
Okay.
I want to.
Is it worth examining the statue since the creature's in the sky?
I'll start reloading my pistols. Like, do it on the double, shall we say?
So I will limp over here and examine the statue and see if there's anything interesting or exciting anywhere around.
Okay, so anyone who's searching can roll me a d6. The statue is as I described it. It's like this very tall, sort of very muscular looking man with sort of chains wrapped around it in archaic, almost sort of like proto-Egyptians, ancient Egyptian dress. Chains all around it. There's vague flecks of like blue clinging to like the areas that are skin, so it might once have been entirely coloured blue. Quentin, as you're looking at the large table next to you, you can see there appears to be a large stone tablet on it. And as Quentin's looking at that, Malcolm, you sort of look underneath the table and you can see there's what looks to be an old battered book underneath there.
I'll give the tablet a read.
Okay, no problems. So the tablet is written in these sort of like old hieroglyphs. Lucky for you, both Weimar and Malcolm have spent a reasonable amount of time sort of figuring out what these hieroglyphs mean. And between all of it, it takes you a little bit of time, but you're able to work out the meaning of it. And it basically says, the ancient ones who tutored us in days of old have departed, taking the best of those blessed with their blood. Most people believe they have forsaken us and turned to their pupils, the Senna, for rulership, but I have faith they will return. Cabrakan.
Can I grab the book?
You can indeed. You grab hold of the book. I'm just going to find the items for those and I will tonk those onto your character sheets. So, let's see, Malcolm. You should now find you have an item called King of Blood book. And I'm just going to, as soon as the interface stops messing me around, I'll stick the tablet on Quentin's sheet. There we go, you should now have the priest's stone tablet on your inventory. And obviously you've got the book. There's a little button you can click on which should bring up an image of the text.
Okay. And can we translate the hieroglyphics, or are these different?
It takes you a little bit of time, but you do indeed translate it. And it says, I cannot let the others in the monastery know. In fact, do you know what? I can just change the picture for you. Rather than me read it all out. Get you to read it out. So I'm the same. Let's see if this works. There we go. Hopefully the image, if you look at it again, the image should have changed now, so it's written in normal text.
Okay. I cannot let the others in the monastery know. They would not understand that the world they believe in is a sham created by the Senate and those who came before them to mask the truth. The past is not what it was made out to be. It is a savage empire of blood and fire where humans were enslaved to the absolute will of the cruel deities who walked the world, and they knew it to be their proper place. It is right that they should quake in the darkness at the edge of the firelight. We are but meat for the King of Blood. Okay.
Sounds like a lovely fellow.
Yeah.
Right, you grab hold of me and we'll limp you away faster.
Yeah. Sounds like a very good plan. I guess we'll limp all the way down to here. Yeah.
Indeed. However, as you're limping past at this point here, Quentin, you spot what appear to be two dusty looking, I suppose, bottles tucked under one of these like ruined benches.
I shall investigate the bottle very quickly.
Okay. One of them is a small glass bottle containing a dark green liquid with a small carved skull fastened to the bottle with a leather thong. The other is a sort of round bottomed glass bottle containing a pearlescent liquid. And I will, assuming you're grabbing them, I will add them to the carrot sheet. You should
it's not tied down, take it.
You should now have two items called Dark Potion and Pearlescent Potion.
Nice. I shall figure out what they do later.
Indeed. And I presume the plan is to pretty much hot-foot it away from the area, is that correct?
That's about the sound of it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to check, see if cause obviously it's taken you guys a bit of time to decipher the hieroglyphics and whatnot, just to see if the creature like returns before you've had a chance to scram out of the area. Can one of you, I'm not fussed who it is, just roll me a d6, anything but one, you're fine.
I'll do it since I are Simber.
Yeah, no problem. You guys managed to hot-foot it before the wyvern returns.
Run away, run away.
Indeed, and you all flee from the ruined chapel.
Well, as Malcolm's injured, we better take him back to the village and heal him.
And all Malcolm will talk about the whole trip is the majestic creature that he'd just seen and how awesome it was that he got to get that close to it.
Okay, so
nearly by it.
It takes you a day to get back to New Zealand. Obviously, you rest up when you get back so you can regain D3 hit points. Anyone who's down hit points. And yeah, you guys have pretty much been listening to like Malcolm all the way back, like talking about how amazing this creature was. I've never seen anything like it to get so close to such a magnificent beast.
Yeah, nearly ate you.
That's not its fault.
If there's a way for you to talk to this one like you talk to some of the other ones, that would be quite the thing.
I am concerned that it is a little bit too powerful for my meager skills. Not that the thought hasn't crossed my mind.
Shame.
Yes.
Maybe we'll find a smaller one.
Yes. Yes.
If we find an egg, and then the conversation probably continues along the expected line from there.
Indeed, and I think as you're sort of like limping Malcolm back to the village, and you're like, maybe if we find an egg, and that's where we sort of like fade out to the title credits, and we draw an end to this session. Obviously, you're back at New Zealand now. Although we've technically ended the session, is there anything you guys want to do, just like little tie-up stuff when you've got back to New Zealand? Or are you just resting up?
Yeah, do we need to restock? What's our...
I think we have plenty of food because we were planning on long trips.
Yeah. 'Cause we
Um,
do need quite a lot of stuff if we're going to go all the way across
Yeah.
the map.
I think we have everything we need. Yeah, I don't see any need.
I guess we're about done then if we've sort of arranged for the garrison to come up and all that.
Okay, so in which case I'll just say thanks for playing, guys. I hope the session was okay for you. I very much enjoyed running it for you.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Thanks, Sean.
And obviously, thanks to anyone now who's watching. Again, thanks to my wonderful players. We'll wrap up the recording here. Obviously, we'll sort out XP and that in a few moments, guys. So we'll end the stream here.